Yeah, okay. Hello, welcome to Honest Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob. Welcome to Hammertime 8 coverage of round 2 of a game between Seraphon and, that's right, Matt was talking the whole time and I could not, the intro was terrible. Let's start again. Hello, welcome to Honest Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob. I'm joined by Owen. Owen and me are going to be taking you through round 2 of Hammertime 8. The Lizards versus the Blizzards. I'm cutting straight to that. There we go. And we don't have to mess around anymore. Hello, Owen. Welcome to the show.
Hey, man. How are you?
I'm really good. Thanks very much for being here. Thank you to everyone who's joined us. You can obviously type !lists in the chat, and you will be able to see the list. As you can see on Planet Bowling Ball, we have two pretty devastating lists playing each other. There is the famous, at this point, Fangs of Sotek list, played by Armand Quirinox, who I think is a French player, if I've got that right, but we'll get some more info on that in a minute. And he is up against the devastatingly gorgeous Stephen Mitchell, one of my actual teammate for an Age of Sigmar team event that's going to be happening next year sometime with the Irish lads. Big fan of Stephen, if you guys want to talk about that. And he's up against, Stephen is running a Blizzard list, Owen, here. A Boulder Head, Thunder Tusk heavy list. It is meaty, is what it is. How are you? You well? Hello,
man. I'm interested to see this. We're calling this Blizzards versus Lizards, right? That's what if you can't come up with a snappy name for it, then it's not worth doing. So yeah, Blizzards versus Lizards. It should be interesting. I think it's an interesting one in terms of the armies because any of the viewers can see outside. It's the most glorious day in the UK, and it's all getting sunny, and everyone's thinking about going to the beach. But in AOS, we don't follow any weather trends. Seems like ice and snow are the prevalent themes for the list writers out there. After Stuart and his Yetis, we've now got Stephen and his Thunder Tusks.
I mean, it's all I really want to ever talk about at this point is just the Ogre More Tribes book. If I'm honest, I know we moved into being a narrative channel some time ago, but we might move into being exclusively only an Ogre More Tribes book. But of course, never do I mean gluttons. I'm never talking about gluttons. Specifically, Beastcore Raiders is what I really mean with addendum. So hello everyone in the chat, welcome, join us. You can type !list in the chat. You can also type !event to find out what's happening in this ladder. There is another game after this, so this is game 2 of 5, 2 games tomorrow. And let me tell you, there's some hot gossip in the ladder. Loads of Tzeentch doing well, loads of Seraphon doing well, not much surprise, but a Fire Slayers army as well. There'll be some more updates coming in at some point. Now, the first turn here was given away by the Beastcore Raiders force and Stephen to the terrifying Fangs of Sotek list. So
yes.
let's quickly talk about what's in this list for Seraphon and the Fangs of Sotek. Lord Croak, 320 points. Not long until he goes up by 40 points, but 8 wounds. It's happening. An Astroloth Banner Bearer, 2 Skink Priests, 2 Skink Star Priests. It is a total of 180 Skinks and 5 Saurus Guard. No one needs any explanation of how this works, but if it's your first time watching some coverage, let me take you through how it works. You buff up a block of Skinks. They're terrifyingly good. They can run a charge, they can stand and shoot, but most specifically, they can do mortal wounds on 6s to hit. They can also get +2 to their save, +1 from a save roll, and +1 against shooting. And then you teleport them across the board, and then they start shooting and murdering stuff. Owen, have I got that right? Is that how it works?
Kind of checks out. Yeah, basically, you've got a number of units which can screen off, but then you tend to have at least 1 or 2 blocks of 40. I'm just going to have a quick look at Quirinox's list, because I think he might have. Has he gone for 3? Yeah, he's gone all in. So it's often you would get 140 and a load of screens, or maybe at max 240 blocks of Skinks. And then you would be putting in some Salamanders, potentially, or some Chameleon Skinks. But obviously, Quirinox just loves that Skink sculpt. He just wants to see it everywhere, right? So he's got not 1, not 2, but 3 blocks of 40. So, yeah, much like you described, there'll be a buff layering hero phase where you can put +1 to hit, 6s to wound, do mortal wounds from the dagger. There's a prayer that's a 3+ for run and shoot and charge. And then, obviously, when you factor that in with the Seraphon Starborn Allegiance abilities, he's able to then pick that unit up and put it anywhere on the board outside of 9, and they're able to then use their 16-inch Spalt Spitter shots to cause havoc. And
the most powerful lungs in the West, actually, and the East, and also the realms. Yeah,
the skink sort of the skink choir is a thing to be heard all across Lustria, Rob. Those lungs, they're like a male voice choir from Wales. Yeah, I mean, often what you're doing is screening out against the shooting turn 1 as the opposing player to the Seraphon. You're normally screening out and then obviously hoping to double back or at least control. But Stephen's got no screens. It's a bold move, Cotton, but he's got no screens, has he?
Well, listen, if there's anyone cool under pressure running a snow-based army, it's going to be Stephen. Calm, collected, dedicated, and focused. He's the definition of cool hand Steve, is what we call him.
Nice.
However, we've seen right now a load of buffs go on. So the first turn was given away by Stephen to the Seraphon Force, and we've seen some. Let me talk about what you've seen here. Lord Croak has gone on a Balewind, and he's done a ton of mortal wounds, specifically into this first Thundertusk Beast Rider, taking him from 13 wounds already down to 5. So that's Comet's Call and the Deliverance of Itza, delivering some pretty significant mortal wounds. We have seen all of the buffs put onto this unit of Skinks, as you can see right here. So they've got reroll hit rolls of 1. They have +1 to hit. They've got +1 to save. They can run and 6s to explode. And then you think, wow, that is a lot of buffs. Don't worry, they've done it again over here with this other unit of Skinks. Exploding 6s to hit cause mortal wounds. They're immune to battle shock. They've got +1 to hit. They've got +1 to save. So there's 2 examples of +1 to save already on these blocks of Skinks. And let's talk about those Skinks with +1 to hit. You think, okay, all right, Owen, Skinks, +1 to hit. How are you feeling about it?
I mean, they're not really going to do a huge amount, but it's more to do with the fact that they're just creating the opportunity for getting more of those dice as 6s to wound. So yeah, it's pretty scary. There's not really enough tokens in the game to be to cover all those buffs, is there? But yeah, he's effectively got 2 armies here, hasn't he? Because he's got double Skink Priest, double Skink Star Priest, and then the 3 blocks of 40. So he's able to essentially split his army up. He has the sort of the base of the army with the Croak and I believe he's got an Astrolith in this list. I'd imagine he has anyway.
He does.
And the Saurus Guard. So he's got the little suite of heroes. But effectively he's able to just have two big blobs. He's only got the one teleport each turn, but obviously if he gets run and shoot, then they've got a crazy threat range, because they're 11-inch range on turn one. Those skinks, they get +3 to move. So 11-inch move, they can run 6, so 17, and then they can also shoot 16. So you're talking about 33-inch threat range. So you don't even need to teleport when you're that fast, do you, Rob?
No, you don't. You don't, and it's a lot. And you think to yourself, okay, so like, what sort of output are we going to be looking at from those blocks of skinks? So those bolt spitters are attack each, unless they've got over 15 models, in which case it's +1. So you're going to be looking at 80 shots coming out of each unit of skinks. With +1 to hit, they're going to be hitting on 4s, re-rolling 1s, and then they wound on 5s. But of course, any 6s to hit are going to cause mortal wounds. So that's what you're really looking at here. Now, so you've got those two blocks. So 160 shots are going to be coming in from the Seraphon Force on the first turn, hitting on 4s, re-rolling 1s. Only re-rolling 1s on one unit, sorry. And as you can see there, look at that unit. They are now running up the board, looking to shoot in and do the work into those Thundertusk Beast Riders. Now, an important point to note here, so that's going to be the output, and then we've got combat. So they're going to charge in, and they're all armed with Moonstone clubs. So that +1 to hit isn't just in shooting, it's flat across the board. It's very much like the new Nighthawk character, which gives you exploding 6s, only it applies in all phases, and you don't have to do a wound in the shooting phase in order to do it for units wholly within 12. It's kind of the same, but really
much like how the Flinger from the Gloomspike Gits book is sort of, blink and you'll miss the differences, but it's very similar to that Mortek Crawler, isn't it?
Very similar. Very similar. Now, I think the thing to really talk about is what in relation. We know the skinks are going in. They're also going to cap these objectives if they can get the charge off. That's important. They're going to be 40 bodies versus the 10 bodies. Don't forget, Ogre tribes, each one of these units is going to count as 10 bodies. So you've got to really ask yourself, what do we think Stephen's plan was here? And I think he knew he was going to get pincered like this. It's very important to kind of like control that. The Stonehorn being in the middle is a big threat. This is the thing he needs to survive. He needs to take no damage and do a load of output. But let's talk about these Huskars on Thundertusk. Or just the Thundertusk Beast Riders. They're going to do exceptionally well into these 40 skinks. What you do is you roll 12 dice, and any 6+ to hit, any 6 is going to cause a mortal wound. However, it's an 18-inch range shooting attack. However, if you've got 10 or more models, it goes down to a 4 up. So he's going to be doing 6 mortal wounds out of each of these bricks, which is quite important. And I think we might see, Owen, we might see a lot of skinks die in a single turn. And then if you can get the Stonehorn in and get a double turn, he's going to hit it off, which I think is, fair, but it's an overwhelming amount of bodies he's got to choose through, right? 180 wounds of skinks.
You might say it was ogre-whelming, Rob.
Nice! I'm into this. Let's go. That's good.
He's obviously setting up really nicely here. I'm not sure if he had a cheeky summon there at the end of the. God, he's got a lot of skinks, doesn't he? Bloody hell! It's almost like they're playing different games, these two armies. But I think he's obviously going for that shock and awe turn one. I think our Fangs of Sotek player Quirinex, I'm sure that he would have expected to be given the turn, and he would have strategized around that. And obviously with Scorched Earth being a very popular battle plan, I think he would have probably, obviously he's written the list to operate in this mission. He's protecting Croak there. Look, got about 90 skinks between Croak and those Thundertusks. What's Stephen's path to victory here? Then he's just got to try and break free of the skink shackles, right?
I think his path to victory is just to unload everything. So the Thundertusk not bad in a fight, right? So if they wanted to, in a turn, what he could do is he could bring the Huskar and Stonehorn over and hit into the brick of 40 skinks if they make it onto that objective. Because currently those skinks aren't scoring any objectives. So unless they make these 9-inch charges, they're not scoring. So that's important. So that's going to be some clutch rolls that we talk about. We're playing Scorched Earth, so 8 objectives. You need to get bodies on the board, and you can burn them in turn 2. So that's an important kind of point. So his path to victory is he's going for the double. He gave the turn away turn 1. He knows what's happening. Marcus Rock has pointed out in the chat, Seraphon player didn't need to be this aggressive. He didn't need to put everything in range, but he has put everything in range. Moving into the Seraphon shooting phase, we're going to see the output in a moment, and we'll see like how devastating it is. But he can bring those 4 Thunder Tusks to comfortably clear those 2 screens of Skinks very easy. If he can bring he can bring all of the shooting to if he can bring all of the shooting to bear into one block of Skinks at the same time, and the Stonehorn can hit either into the other block of Skinks or can kind of get into the midfield. On that priority roll, he's got the Stonehorn going into the last unit of Skinks, and then the mortal wounds coming out of the Huskguards, as well as the combat still piling into another unit. So comfortably on a double turn, I could see 2 of the units of 40 Skinks gone off the board. And don't forget, if they are off the board, like if they're dead, the other unit, as long as it's not this unit in the bottom left-hand corner, is not going to get buffed. So we'll see. We'll see. I think he has a path to victory. Does require him to take 2 turns in a row. So, that's kind of ask yourself if you feel that's okay.
I think the thing that's going to be very important for Steve here is it's whether the parting shot comes off, because it's all very well, I think some people are questioning why he's gone so aggressive, and I think parting shot just gives you a really, a really solid way of, getting some more damage, even if it's just bracketing those monsters as they come in on the charge, because you always get to shoot, but then you only get to move after, on a 4+, as we know. But also, Rob, there's an argument here, whereas Quirenex has just gone for threat saturation. Sometimes you just put so much in your opponent's face, they have to make a decision to go one way or another, or they might split up more than they want to. I do think that if he just teleports 140 through, then he loses that 40 on the next turn.
I don't think he even needed to do that, though. So we'll just let you know the shooting phase, that left-hand unit of Skinks deleted, so that's the orientation of the map for you, Owen, if you're looking at it with us, deleted the Thunder Tusk, and the other unit of Skinks have just shot, and they've taken the other Tusk down from 13 wounds down to 4 wounds. Don't forget, Stephen is playing in Boulderhead, so the sub-faction is going to give him +1 wound on each one of these. And actually, an unwounded Thunder Tusk is pretty good for Stephen if the Skinks don't make the charge. We've got the Morpot, which we can use to heal D3. We can also heal from the Thunder Tusk as well. So, the Huskguard. And we've got 2, and we got 1 of those, so we could get a heal off. And the Seraphon didn't charge. So that's the end of that turn there, Owen. So just going to be a flat 4 points. So he didn't want to risk a 10-inch charge? There's no... Okay, interesting. So would you have gone for the charge, Owen? 10-inch charge. Would you have gone for it on the bottom left and on the right hand objective?
Sorry. I think so. You'd rather fight on objectives than off them, right? Because even, when we get into that turn 2, I would rather be up there. Maybe he just wants to rely on that parting shot doing the work, so he doesn't actually need to charge in. He can just parting shot and then nip round the back.
Okay, Owen, talk to me about... So I've got a unit of Skinks here with 2 characters behind it, and then I've got another unit of Skinks here next to Croak and the Bellwind. Explain to me what parting shot's going to do. Explain to me how things are going.
So, basically, parting shot, what that means is when an enemy unit, so when one of these Beast Claw Raiders, Thunder Tusks, when they finish within 3 inches of a skink unit, if that skink unit is wholly within 18 of a skink hero, they can then spend a command point, and it allows the unit of 40 to shoot. So after you've weathered a shooting phase from your opponent, they then get to shoot you in your own charge phase. So basically, with all the buffs are obviously there because they last till the next hero phase. So effectively, it's another shooting phase in your opponent's turn. Then on top of that, they're able to roll a dice, and on a 4+, the unit that's just shot can then make a normal move. They can't run, but Skinks on turn 1 have an 11-inch move. So effectively, they can just shoot you up and then get out of dodge. and it sucks ass. But anyway, that's just my opinion.
Some of you at home, obviously huge fans of sucking ass, and we're in no way are we criticising your life choices. That's super okay. You go for it. Let you know what's happening in the hero phase right now is the Morpot has been unleashed. They've fed all the hungry lads around, and we've also had the Huskard on Thundertusk heal up the Thundertusk Beast Rider from the 5 wounds he had up to 8 wounds now, so he's fine there. Yeah, that parting shot really good. Gitley in the chat making the good joke. When they do charge, what's going to happen is he's going to say to him, do you want to charge me? But like, no fangs. That's how it's going to work. That works.
Jesus Christ. I'm just thinking, Rob. These Huskards on their Thundertusks, they've all got blood vultures, which is going to be really helpful for picking off those little heroes. I believe it's quite long range, isn't it? It's like 30-inch range, 2+ for a mortal wound. So picking off those heroes before you go in and make the charge must be on Stephen's mind, because it's quite a nice way of getting rid of those little heroes. Obviously, they can summon more back because why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you have everything that's possible in the game in one book? Sorry, Rob, carry on again.
You're absolutely right. You would. Yeah, I know. Like, so we were looking through the lists, just so for you guys to know, we were looking through the list. Owen was like, I was like, let's look at these, and he's like, against the fangs, and I was like, we're not bat rappers. You guys, we're gonna have fun watching someone get absolutely trolleyed. This is like Ponage YouTube video shorts, is what we're gonna see. Yeah, either Stephen gets the double turn and pushes all of these frosty monsters into the cold-blooded enemy, or he's gonna get absolutely filled like a pincushion. This is gonna be like my nan knitting. There'll be more holes put into a bit of this. I don't know where that was going, but.
Right. I love you too, Sporgan. Thanks, man.
I love everyone in the chat. Dwarf Penguin unconfident in the Thundertusk's ability to even kill 10 skinks. Although the red unit is a block of 20, so I understand that. This is real Warhammer, ladies and gentlemen. This is stuff you're going to have to face at tournaments in the future. So we got to watch it and we got to suffer through it. It's going to be a thing. So where is the Stonehorn going? Where's the Stonehorn going? I got to say, great play already by our man Quillinox or Quorinox, or because he's gone really wide on the flank here. He's made it really hard for Stephen to play. Stephen spread out. I don't know about you, Owen, but I would have been very tempted to just like block a flank up. I feel like that's how I want to play Scorched Earth all the time. I want to completely, especially against teleporting armies, I want to completely control a flank, and then I want to zonally control 4 on the board, like laterally, as opposed to trying to do it wide. Yeah, I don't know if that word means what I meant. And then, right, I want to control that, and I feel like I can. It gives me easy to project power. But then again, he could have just pushed 2 40 skinks forward and unloaded a load of shots. But even then, 40 skinks shooting didn't kill a Thundertusk Beast Rider, wouldn't kill a Stonehorn, would put you in a good spot, I think. Have you got tactics for playing Scorched Earth?
I mean, it's a funny one, actually, because looking at the Fangs of Sotek player, his setup, he's kind of gone for like the flank push that you often get when you don't feel you can cover all the objectives. Much like what you've said, Rob. You go for that half board, and you turn the board on its side a little bit, and you want to try to roll a flank. Whereas he's attempting to roll a flank, and also he's then got all of the bodies in the middle to gam up as well. I mean, he's played it really, really well. It was a pretty stellar first turn, to be honest with you. But when you can just pick your whole unit up and put it anywhere you want without having to bother about the movement phase, then I suppose, anyone can look amazing when they can do that, right?
What we really need is a new skink character that can teleport with them and spend a CP to make him shoot twice. That's the future I'm hoping for. Yeah, that's...
Make it so. But no, I mean, you have to, much like you said, Rob, we're not here to whilst Warhammer is fun, it's also a harsh world of very, very strong armies, and you have to play out of your skin to be able to be able to get a win out of these games. So he has been targeting those skink heroes, though, Rob. I think vultures have been all over the board, and they're
Yep.
picking the eyes out of those. Yeah,
I know, and I'm here for it. One more wound. So far, blood vultures have been launched. They've whispered in their ear, "That little bastard that looks like a skink." And they've been flying. Owen's doing a good bird impression. Get your cacaws out at home.
Oh, yeah, no one can see me. I've just realised
Yeah, no one can see. Right, but here we go. So the blood vulture's streaming, but he's still got one wound left. Heartbreak. So he's not dead. So we've started to see by the way, we've started to see these Thunder Tusks roll in, and they're going to do some amazing damage. Again, it's a lot of shots. 12 dice. If they've got 10 or more models, it's going to be a 4-up to cause a mortal wound. We've already seen them do 7 mortal wounds. That +1 save right there is doing nothing against this. Yeah, we've got another. It's an 18-inch shot as well. 18-inch shot on 6 more mortals. So right now, 13 mortal wounds have gone into that big brick of skinks. And that's great work. Like, this is what I mean. On a double, there's going to be a lot of output. On a second turn, that unit's basically gone off the board. The Stonehorn is going to be through and into the meat and potatoes of the back army. So it's a really solid play. It's such an aggressive army. It's going to be able to apply so much damage. And it's got one of my favourite kind of like builds, really, Owen. I like units. And there's a nice parallel, actually. I like units that can do this. There's a nice parallel between the mammoths, the Thunder Tusk and the skinks. The skinks can shoot and fight. The mammoths can shoot and fight. So they can project power somewhere while also putting their melee output somewhere else and putting their scoring potential somewhere else as well. So I think there's a really nice kind of parallel between these two. They're just done in different platforms. And it's a lot more elite shooting here. But, if you put all of those Thunder Tusks into like a big model, Owen, it turns into 6s, cause a mortal wound. But you could fish for doing some 6s and take out a monster with those pretty easy.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. One thing to bear in mind as well that we haven't really touched on is the impact hits that these ogre units can put out.
Baby.
Whilst they've got the parting shot, so any ogre, more tribes, hero or monster, wow, another 8 mortals going in there. So I think we've put 16. I won't digress too much, Rob, but I think Stephen is very much focused on getting those skink units down to 15, because 15 or more models is what gives them the 2 shots. So he's really trying to limit. If you get them down, if you can kill 25. Then they go from doing 80 shots to 15 shots. So it's pretty big. But back to the mortal wounds on the charge, the monsters and the heroes. If you roll a 6 to charge, you roll 6 dice then, and each 4+ is a mortal wound. And because it's Stephen's turn, he will be able to do that even if they do the parting shot and then retreat. Wow, okay. 20 skinks.
Those 3 Thunder Tusks have shot. And we've done 20 skinks into this other unit. I told you there's some output here. And very much like we talked about, I don't think we needed to see aggressive play. He didn't need to put all of his bodies in there that turn. Croak was doing a nice job of just chilling off one of the Thunder Tusks at the top. And I think it was fine. He's also, don't forget, sat on summoning points. He's up to 3 faction points. I'm really not sure about bringing out this line of skinks in the center and just giving them up. I think he wants to hold them back, but I guess maybe he just didn't want him to run into the midfield. He was like, Stephen obviously had given the turn away, and Quirinox was like, do you know what? He's just going to launch everything at me. I'm just going to try and make sure that doesn't happen. And there we go. But now we're into that charge phase. Even more mortal wounds, even more damage. 3 monsters, these 3 Thunder Tusk Beast Riders, going into this unit of 20 skinks as well. That's a lot of mortal wounds. That's going to be so that's going to be more mortal wounds into there before they even fight. So Dwarf Penguin doesn't think in the chat we're going to see these skinks in the middle run away, but maybe we will. But we've seen the Stonehorn 5 mortal wounds straight off the bat on the charge.
Yeah, I think he rolled a 6 to charge and then popped 5 out of 6 4+ to get the mortals. So he's going to be really happy about that. I mean, it's dangerous here. You can see Stephen measuring up to see if he's going to be able to. I think the Quirinex is going to be motivated to keep the green skinks that are sort of in front or closer to Croak, because otherwise it's going to leave a free pathway through here. I think he's sacrificing, making him pile in that. Oof. I mean, if Stephen gets a double here, I mean, how many mortal wounds has he done in turn 1? He's done a hell of a lot of mortal wounds.
A hell of a lot. So as we saw 13 mortal wounds go into this block of skinks on the far left. On the far right, we saw 20 mortal wounds go in, and we also saw 3 more mortal wounds come out of the blood vultures into the skink priest. We're now going to see more mortal wounds come out the charge. I told you, it's going to be on a dice roll. I mean, now I'm not saying at the end of a double turn for the Ogre Moor tribes, it's a win, but it's a much scarier position.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just quick math there, Rob. That's 41 mortal wounds so far on turn 1, which...
It's a list. The Thundertusk list is a list. They count...
Yeah,
one of the things that also you kind of look at in the list, you think, oh, okay, they don't have a lot of screens, but really, they're fine with that. Like, they can afford to lose maybe like a Thundertusker's bait or something, but they also count as 10 models. And the slapback from these guys, the counter charge is prodigious. There's a lot. They also play really well into units. And also we need to think about the sort of things that are alpha striking at the moment in the game. And I think that's a kind of good conversation as well. It's probably Ideneth, although they rarely, I don't know about you, Owen, most of the Ideneth lists that we've seen aren't really the old drop down, get +3, +6 to charge, and then drop in. We don't see that much anymore. So it's not really Ideneth anymore. I think it's just really Seraphon. Those are the kind of armies that are doing it. Or the Stormcast list. The Shootcast is another kind of alpha drop. But we, by the way, all of the charges and combats are over. What's happened is there hasn't been enough room to pile in some of these models afterwards here. Oh, not he's just Stephen's not elected to charge them in. Okay, so the mortals have pulled them out of combat, and so they're not in engagement range. And Stephen's elected not to pile in, which is very smart. He hasn't piled in, so he's now tied up for a turn, not doing any damage, and instead kept himself out. So if he does get the priority roll, he is going to be able to go forward.
Boy. Yeah, he's going to be free, single, and ready to mingle. I mean, that boy. If Stephen wins the prio here, it does. Yeah, it's going to be big, as Halo would say.
So just quickly here, Battle Shock, we lost more skinks on the left-hand unit. We lost some more reds as well. The unit on the far right was immune to Battle Shock, so they're good. Priority roll coming in now. Blue dice for Ogre Moor tribes. Oh no, 2 blue dice. That doesn't work. Red dice for Seraphon. Let us know who you're rooting for in the chat. Red's rolled a 1 and blue. That's right. Ogre Moor tribes have rolled a 5. He said, I'm taking it. It's time to rock. 4Tracks, thanks for resubscribing. Thanks everyone for subscribing. 4-4 on the victory points. Owen, this is a turnaround. This is going to be a thing now.
Mate, this is going to be a thing, definitely. I would not be surprised to see Blood Vulture into those two green skinks there, and then the Frostlord on Stonehorn is going to go and make friends with all that stuff in the corner there. This is I mean, there's lots of bigs in the chat there from Tomb King Tristan. This is big. Skinks are scary, but these Thundertusks, they're no joke either, and I expect him to push up. He's going to be able to dominate the board and just take a massive dent out of all the skinks, right?
Huge dent. Specifically, he's going to lose this block of skinks on the far left. He's going to lose this block of skinks on the far right. That's important. The real question we're asking ourselves is, can the Stonehorn find a way to get himself into the block of skinks at the back? Even if he can't, the interesting conversation here now is that those Thundertusks at the top can just run rampage into these bottom parts of the board, and they're in a really solid place. And actually, points-wise, because the Seraphon Alpha, if it was that, which it clearly wasn't, didn't get him any bonus points. They lost 1 Thundertusk Beast Rider model, so 1 unit's been lost so far by the Ogre Moor tribes. And in fact, we've just had another heal. The Thundertusk Beast Rider that got dropped down to 4 is now back up to 9, and he's laughing. Yeah, so it wasn't...
Wow.
It was over-aggressive. Marcus Rock in the chat, who I'm a big fan of, said, this feels like overconfidence from running 180 skinks. And I can see that. I really can.
Yeah, definitely. I think because there's so much that you can do with the Seraphon book, which is guaranteed, then it allows you to, strategize quite clearly. And maybe there is a little bit of overconfidence there. I do think that he offered up quite a lot to Stephen Quirinex, the Seraphon player. He gave whilst I was talking about threat saturation earlier, he still offered up lots and lots of different stuff, which is now all going to get whittled away. I mean, we started with how many skinks on the board? I think there was about 150, 180. We should probably do some more quick maths at the end of this turn and see how much he's got left, because this is going to be, I expect. I mean, it's very much in Ogre's favour, but if much like game 2 last week, right, in the Grand Hammer tournament, you can't. The games are super swingy, especially with summoning and the output from Croak, and if he doubles back, we've still very much got a game here, right?
See, what's interesting about this game here is I'd be sorely tempted to just drop the Stonehorn back, of all things, Owen. Getting it in this little gap here, as we can see, because we're into the movement phase. I want everyone to know that. We're into the movement phase, so we need a shooting phase to kind of clear us up. Putting it here just gives the skinks right here, who are going to get buffed up, and also Croak, all of the output into the Huskard on Stonehorn. Yeah? Put him a little bit, just drop him back a turn. Just be like, cool, just going to hang back here. If you want to run over to my Huskard and Thundertusk on the left with your block of skinks, cool, you can do that. You can go shoot away at those guys on the left. I'll then run around and I'll take you out next turn. Put you in the middle, not really doing anything if I put you in this little block. But it looks like he's going to move up as close as he can in the 3-inch range. He's going to look to mortal wound off those 2 skinks with Moonstone clubs and then get a very big charge. I think that's the goal. Not certain I'm loving that play. I would have been tempted to just hold it back. He's what I like to call the beatdown now. He's in the driving seat. He can just take units out and just say to Quirinox and the Seraphon player, be like, cool. You can sit in that castle now for the rest of the game. I'm just going to go take out the rest of the board. It's all good. Yeah, because you're either going to drop those 40 out or you're not. That's your choice. Very, very interested but I mean, he's gone for that. He's gone for the choice, right? And he's a bit blocked up there.
Yeah, and it's this mission. It's not really one where he only wants to consolidate his position and kill stuff. I'd imagine that he's still because you can burn your opponent's objectives from turn 2, which is obviously we're into turn 2. So I would have thought that Stephen would have maybe wanted to nick an objective and get up on the score. But it looks like he's just going for kills, right? Just taking all the bodies down, and Croak can sit in the corner with his skinky friends if he wants. But while that's happening, then the rest of Stephen's army is going to win the mission.
So we're after the movement phase. We're into the shooting phase. So far, 2 1s on the Blood Vulture. We have lost ourselves a skink priest here. The one who was down to 1 wound is finally gone. We're still sat on some CP, though, for that Fangs of Sotek stand and shoot. That's still going to happen. We can't forget about that. But neutering these units, like you say, Owen, dropping them down below 15 so they don't get +1 attack is very important. Oh, we've just lost another skink priest as well. So the Blood Vulture's being focused on the skink priests and not to clear these 2 skink with Moonstone clubs. So reducing the buffs that's available to these guys as well. Very important, very strong. Yes, Owen?
Yes, because there is always a lot of conjecture about whether you go for the skinks or you go for the priests. Because if you leave the priests alive, then when you're then summoning from the summoning points that the Starborn Seraphon get, then obviously summoned units, 10 skinks for 6 points. You can then whap the buff on them, and whilst it's nowhere near as good as putting them on a block of 40. There's always a balance between taking down the numbers and taking down the buff pieces. But it seems like he's continuing to just pump into those blocks.
Again, two great points made there, Owen. Obviously, one of the things we should talk about is that the Thundertusks themselves, again, really cool little play there, is that they've got all of the options. They're like, look, we've got a horde clearing shooting attack. We've also got drop a mortal wound at 30 inches. And we've also got fight and also hold an objective. They're kind of almost the perfect unit in some ways. They do a load of stuff. They can also fight in combat, which I think is really key. And I forgot what the second point was. So
it's all right. My one thing I've got a question for you, Rob, is the Thunder Tusks. They don't get the stone skeleton rule, do they? They don't have the 5-up after damage save. So I think they will, and they've only got a 4-up save, I believe.
Yeah, they can melt very comfortably.
They
under
can
the
go
fire.
down.
Yeah.
But
that's what the Stonehorn's in the list for. That Stonehorn is we saw him last week when being played obviously so well by Stuart, and it could take out whole armies on its own. Right, so we've just heard that the unit on the far right, the unit on the far left, it has finally been reduced down to 14 wounds. 14 bodies. So, like you say, Owen, that's a great bit of news there, because now they're not going to get double shots. I think that's going to be really important.
Hey, Rob, looking at the board now, there is a way that if Stephen is committing and he wants to put that Frost Lord into the big unit of skinks next to Croak, he has got a path to doing that, I think. Potentially he could charge mortal wound off the red unit, and then he still gets his 3-inch pile in 2-inch range on the horns on the other side there. So it might be too much, but basically he might be able to blow up the screen, and he could get on the objective, to be honest with you, with that, even if he can't get into the skinks. Oh, one thing to note, I've just seen there, hovering over that big bit of terrain in front of the unit of skinks next to Croak and his Balewind, that's mystical. So those Thunder Tusks will have effectively not quite a 5-up stone skeleton, but they're going to get the 6-up, which is going to help them.
Yeah, they're also next to this healing terrain as well, which could turn up a cropper. We now following into the shooting phase again, like as we can see here. 7 more mortal wounds done into this skink with club splitters, and again reduced below that 15 wound cap. So they're now just doing +1 attack. They're not getting +1 attack anymore. I was going to say, actually, another nice play that we saw earlier was from Quirinox, and I thought that it was done really well, is the removal of his bodies. So if you guys are watching this and you joined late, you should go back and look at just exactly where he decided to remove the units from, or the models from. That was quite key. Doing that has left him a space. It's allowed him to block that stone horn up, which was so important. So I think he's done a really good job there of blocking it up. So I think that was a really nice play that we're kind of missing. Let's also talk about the fact, Owen, that these Thunder Tusks aren't moving from those objectives either. Those are 10 wounds on an objective, but they can't move. So really, those 4-back objectives, we've only got the Stonehorn who can play the aggressive forward game. Like, that's it. And I think I can see what's happening here. I think he might try and push towards Croak's objective, but he might just push, there we go, down. We might just see him looking to get towards these bottom objectives and just saying, hey, fight me near your territory. Don't bother with the backfield. It's not part of the ploy here. So interesting. I also wonder if we will see that Thundertusk at the top charge into those skinks at the bottom, or avoid it. I do wonder at the top.
Not sure. I mean, I take your point, and I can see the way that Stephen's set up with those Thundertusks are. Big charge there, Rob. Big charge.
So he's done it. An 11-inch charge into the skinks. So that's going to be any of those dice he rolls. A 4-up is a mortal wound. I'm right, Owen?
That's correct. Yeah, I believe so. Unless it's a Beast Rider. I don't think the Beast Riders get it. The Beast Riders might be on a 6-up, but I'm not down.
It looks like it's a 4. So it's 6 mortal wounds more. So that takes that unit down to below 10. That's actually really important. So even if they run onto the objective, they won't outscore the Huskard. So actually, big play there. He doesn't even have to do any damage in combat now. But he's obviously going to want to. Now, these 2 Thundertusks at the top, we've got 2. One that's injured and one that's not. The one that isn't... So the injured one has charged and he's rolled an 8. Here is... Are we going to see the CP for the standard shoot? I don't expect that to be the case in this situation.
No, the efficiency that you're going to get from it is so much lower now that he's pinged so many. I think we've just lost another 3 on the charge there.
We have.
The mortal wound output is is incredible. I mean, I've played ogres enough, but I think it's obviously it's turned out to be a very good matchup for him. With the hailstorms. Yeah, true. And obviously Stephen, he's positioned his Thunder Tusks really nicely in that he's obviously the skinks a unit can be summoned or teleported into the back there. But if he puts a 10 on the back, it's not going to cap it because all of those monsters count as 10 anyway. And then it's sort of got the KO problem of like, okay, fine, you can teleport anywhere you want and shoot stuff off, but you can't then charge onto the objective. So yes.
So
left-hand Thunder Tusk.
That's all of the charges done. The left-hand Thunder Tusk is going first. We've not seen any stand and shoot being used. We have also seen some of these units move into Croak range. So Deliverance of Itza is definitely going to be a thing coming out of Croak. Not forgetting that we saw Croak just himself take a Thunder Tusk down from 13 down to 5 wounds in one magic phase last time. So that could very much happen on this far left-hand objective here. But he's going to have gone. Let's talk about like how the first turn for Seraphon started. It started with 2 bricks of 40 skinks, a brick of 20 and a 10, all aggressively moving up the board. It's down at the after the top of turn 2 to most of the 1 brick of 40 gone. I think we're down to 8 at the minute with some combats to go. And then the other unit down to only 9. So that, he's lost 60 to 70 skinks there. He's going to definitely lose the red skinks. The green skinks will stay. They're fine. So he's down. He's lost nearly 100 skinks in 2 turns, which is pretty prodigious. It is most of his army. So it'll be very fascinating to see if just 1 brick of 40 skinks can pull this game back. That's the real question.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that if Quirinix is going to win this, it's going to be a late game win, isn't it? Because over that double, Stephen has really put himself in the driving seat here. Because whilst there's teleporting and everything's fast, and like we've said about the buff layering, he can only be in one place at a time really, and he's only got so many scoring units remaining. Also, I can see potentially why he's got Croak so wide, but Croak being a boss in the middle with that sphere of influence that he can put out, I tend to like seeing Croak at the center of the castle. To be honest with you, I don't think there was any need for him to swing wide over onto that flank. Maybe he was trying to set up a Balewind hop or something like that. But yeah, interesting. I'm just struggling to know what he was thinking. Exactly.
Me too. I'm not. I think he's played it. I think he's played it in the way he wanted to play it. Turn 1, he deployed where he was going to deploy. He decided he wasn't going to engage particularly heavy. He decided he was going to go all in and push and do a load of work. The problem is he hasn't been able to. He's only killed a single Thunder Tusk with all of that play. And I do wonder if he didn't plan, or if he shouldn't have planned on just buffing 2 units again and rolling a flank in this situation. There's a lot of resources put out. However, the priority roll, had it gone the other way, Owen, it was still a really strong place for the Seraphon to be in. They were in a really competent spot. They were okay. I think they could have maybe cleared most of the left-hand flank in that position. So they've got to be pretty happy about that. Of course, the Frostlord on Stonehorn. Oh no, it's only a Huskguard on Stonehorn. Sorry, the Huskguard on Stonehorn smashed our unit of red skinks here. So he's got a clear path to victory to this bottom objective and also this right objective. Got to say, it's a really nice play from Stephen, because now Seraphon have to take out the Huskguard and Stonehorn. If he grabs the objective at the bottom, not forgetting he counts as 10 models, what he's going to do is he's going to grab it and he's going to get a bonus victory point for burning it with a hero. So he can do that to this objective, and he can also do it to the objective on the right as well. And he's kind of pincering this. He's almost just leaving Croak in his bubble. So these 40 skinks who we've got left, these 30 skinks that we've got left over here, they're going to have to move over onto the right-hand objective just to make sure the Huskard and Stonehorn doesn't score the next turn and try to take him out. And even with all of the buffs, maybe not take him out. Maybe not take him out.
I think Stephen has forced Quironex into a very reactionary game now over the next couple of turns. Constantly, he's just going to be reacting to... He's probably playing for a double at this point, I'd imagine, in his mind. I mean, because the 30 skinks can't do everything. He's going to have to be screening off, because effectively, if Stephen gets the next turn priority, then he could lose 3 of his home objectives. Everybody's lined up. Yeah, ready to go.
So we're just seeing what the last command point has just been spent to keep those couple of skinks up at the top there, and they must. Oh, sorry, the one at the back. Okay, so this unit back here is the one. Oh no, it's the unit on the. Okay, so it was this unit here. Sorry, the blue unit is the one that we've seen the CP spent on. Okay.
Hey, Rob.
I can't see the word there.
Do you want to know who's currently top of the tree on the ladder?
I do.
Mr.
Tell me.
Mr. Dayton Obrey. He's already won in his game. He's got 2-0, baby.
I told you yesterday when we did the list review show, Dayton's bringing the heat. He's absolutely bringing the heat. Those bow snakes, they're terrifying. And then he hasn't gone for the, like we saw last week with, was it Alex? Do a great job last week for taking out the tournament.
Yes.
With his, he went for a more delicate kind of like board control version of the Marathi snake build. Dayton has gone all in. He's like, I'm going to fight you twice or I'm going to shoot you twice, but either way, you are having the best time. Like, which is, I'm big into him and that list. I think we might see that on the top tables tomorrow, so looking forward to that. So we're at the end of Ogre Moor Tribes, turn 2, and that's the state of the board. We've lost all of the skinks on the far left. The skinks on the far right, are down to 7, and all of their buffs are now gone. That's really, really important. And then we have only got a brick of skinks here, Croak, an Ashroth Bannerbearer, and only 4 Saurus Guard, 1 dying previously to Blood Vultures. And then defending these back 2 objectives, 5 skinks trying their hardest.
Right. Do you know what we're looking at now, Rob? This is the fated Balewind Hop. So what Croak is doing here, this is a janky thing that gets used quite a bit by players with normally Tzeentch and Seraphon. So if you see what he's done is he's unbound the Balewind Vortex, which means that Croak can disembark, and then he's gonna then jump back onto it to then get his range back. So expect to see that Balewind kind of teleporting forward, and all that does is it just puts here we go. So all that does is put Croak's sphere of influence closer now. He's probably going to be able to hit with a Celestial Deliverance. He's probably going to be able to hit those 3 monsters there. But yeah, when you look at the range of a spell, when you're looking at a Seraphon army or something of this nature, then you have to factor in so much extra range that he can get by doing little tricks like this. It looks he's not maybe gone as deep. He's just popped Croak off, and Croak's saying hello to that Thunder Tusk now.
He is very close to the Thunder Tusk. So yeah, I mean, he's going to have to bring all that damage. But let's talk about the output that we could potentially see here. We could see from Croak, and we talk about Croak a lot on the shows and the games, and it's kind of like you really need to see it in action to really make it make sense. He's going to do potentially 4d3 mortal wounds to those 3 monsters in front of him, and like a potential average of 8 mortal wounds to those 3 monsters in that AoE bubble. Thankfully, they're not demons, or the average would go up to 12. Like, it's monstrous. Now, that's he could do. He has to cast 4 spells. That's really important. And then there are dice rolls to see whether or not they happen. That's also important as well. But, like, there's going to be no unbinds coming out of the ogres. That's really important. We're not going to see that. And so, is really just Croak with his natural +1 and the Astaroth Banner giving him another +1 to cast, giving him like some pretty good solid spellcasting. But I've seen Croak players get into the perfect position and then not cast the spells. Mm-hmm. It's not super difficult, but it can easily happen. And he's going to need maximum output this turn, Owen. He needs maximum output this turn, and maybe the double turn, to clear this half of the board. And then all he's going to do is have half of the board. I agree with you. I think we could see a late game win for Seraphon, but a load of pieces in that tumbler lock need to really line up. What needs to happen is he needs this turn, and he needs to take out most of the wounds on the 3 monsters in front of him. Then he needs the double turn, and he needs to clear them away. Then the Thunder Tusks on the far right, they're just going to have to sit on those objectives, and then eventually he's going to have to teleport his Brick of 40 off, and then just take different units out.
Much like Carmageddon says in the chat there, he does get another +1 from the Sage's Staff, the Asterism, I'd imagine. So he is going to be, because Celestial Deliverance, it costs 1 more every time you cast it, doesn't it? So I believe it starts on a 7, and then it's an 8, and then it's a 9. So he does what a lot of other casters can't do, apart from, I think, only Nagash and maybe Arcan in the game can cast the same spell multiple times. Obviously, they can cast multiple Arcane Bolts. But so Croak's ability, he'll go 3 Deliverances and a Comet's Core, which is the Global Mortal Wounds. And I don't think he's got another spell then. But yeah, you're right. Over a double turn, he could very easily just smoke all 3 of those just from him. And then you factor in the output then from that skink block, because that's still scary, right, Rob? I know that the skinks have taken a massive hammering, but that block that's next to Croak is still pretty scary. It's got the Serpent Staff, so 6 to wound are doing mortal wounds. Yeah, here come the buffs. So this is reroll 1s to hit. That will be from the spell, I believe. Hand of Glory or something?
Hand of Glory, and then he's got reroll 6s to hit. Now, of course, he's lost +1 save because the Skink Priest died, and that was something Stephen targeted. Just talking about the damage that's come out of Croak, because we have seen Croak do all of his spellcasting now. The Thunder Tusk at the top, in a repeat of what we saw in turn 1, is down to 5 wounds. So he's half dead already. And then the Thunder Tusk over on the far side, and look at the range. Look at this. So being on the Balewind adds 6 inches to the range of Croak's 12-inch spell, and then having the Astaroth Banner Bearer within range adds another 6. So it's 24 inches. So look at that. There's 24-inch range to reach over there. So that's how we got. And he's taken him down. So then he's down to 6 wounds. However, big news is the Stonehorn only took a wound. That's going to be... so he was smashing it on his 5-up DPR save. So that stone skeleton, ignoring, maybe it's a magical stone skeleton. Who knows at this point?
Hey, Rob. One thing there, when you were hovering over that Stonehorn, I'd just like to give Stephen a shout out here, because if you hover over any of his models, he's got all of the abilities and all of the artifacts and traits and stuff clearly listed for his opponent. Not only the names, but what they do, and I respect and appreciate that. Your opponent knowing everything about your army is key to having a good game. So yeah, it does look like with that hop with the Balewind hop, he has got them all in range. I'm not sure if we've got more mortal wound output coming in the. So no, we're into the movement phase already. So they're all standing, Rob. But the fact they're all standing is quite good, because I think that Quirinix might need to charge here and get on some objectives
he's going to have to put absolutely everything right now into the Stonehorn. The Thunder Tusks are not going to do enough damage to kill Croak ever. It's not what they're going to do. Even with the mortal wound sniping, they're not going to do it. They're not going to move off their objectives in case something teleports onto their objective to take them out. So he's in a good spot there. So all of the output needs to come from the Skinks and go into the Stonehorn. I don't think the Stonehorn will go down, but we'll see. That's important. And then we're seeing right here, those Skinks run away from this fight with the Thunder Tusk Beast Rider to try to get outside of this range here and get on that back objective. Now they're going to have to count this. They're going to have to be 10 models, and they don't have 10 models. So they're not going to have the option to do that. So
the play there is, though, Rob, is win the double, summon 10 Skinks, and then chuck them on there, and then he does outscore him.
Yep, exactly. And then burn the objective. So Stephen's at a point deficit at this. However, the priority roll here, very, very necessary for Seraphon. And I think even if they get it, like I've said, that Stonehorn needs to be dead at the end of the double. If he's not, he's laughing. He's grabbing all the objectives across the board. However, the priority roll going to Seraphon might mean that we see the Thunder Tusks go down at the top, and that's going to give Quirinox so many options. Drop 10 skinks up there. In fact, actually, even just these 2 skinks in the middle of the board can just run and go claim that objective and then give it a burn or whatever. So he's got some options, and those summoned skinks are going to be fairly crucial. He's currently sat on 4 summoning points at the moment, so he hasn't got loads, but he's doing. Oh, there we go. He's trying to zone off the. I think that's the wrong way to take them, but that's fine.
I would have put them through the little. See, there's that little archway. They could have run through that little archway around the back then, because
that's
it's even if you're not scoring it, turning your opponent around so they can't just walk off their objectives and keep scoring is a legitimate tactic, right? I think. Maybe they're just eyeballing the Stonehorn, giving him the V's.
Interesting. It looks like he's not electing to go for the Stonehorn, and instead he's going to try and clear at the top. I don't think that's the right call at all. But maybe he's just looking. Maybe he's going to play a different game, because there is a different game he can play here. He can, if he wants, deal with this Thunder Tusk at the top, grab the objective, burn it because it's turn 2. Next turn, buff them up, teleport them somewhere else at the back near this Huskarl Thunder Tusk with a Morpot. Grab that, take that out. I mean, he loses his castle, but he can just start moving units around and grabbing objectives if that's what he wants to, the way he wants to play it. Because we are in turn 2. As soon as turn 3 starts swinging, and you start burning those objectives, it can really start swinging your way if you get it. So yeah.
Shall we talk about the mission? Have we delved on the mission a great deal?
I highlighted it, but yeah, please feel free.
So effectively, what we've got here, it's one of the very best missions in the game, I think, because obviously you have to try and score and hold your own objectives. So you've got 4 in your half of the board and 4 in your opponent's half. They're worth a point each in normal scoring, but then from turn 2 onwards, and we're on turn 2 now, you're able to burn those objectives if you outscore your opponent. And the only caveat to that is that if your opponent has a hero within range, within 6 inches, then you're not able to burn, but you are able to score. Now, much to some players' pleasure and others' surprise, often this is house ruled to be a flat 2 rather than a D3 burn. But I am I'm letting it be a D3 burn. In a world of things just happening, Destiny dice, you get a buff, you get a buff. Let's have some more randomness. So I'm playing it as a D3 burn, which might come back and bite me now because Seraphon might win because of the D3 burn, and we all want the ogres to win, don't we?
Yeah, we're all rooting for whoever we're rooting for. But big play here by Quirinox. Massive. He's taken the unit of 5 skinks that were here in the center. He's teleported them at the top. They're now outscoring on that top objective. These Thunder Tusk Beast Riders aren't heroes, so they're not going to be able to stop the burn. And so we're going to see this. Like climate change, it's inevitable that these are going to get absolutely burnt off the earth, and they are gone. So he's going to outscore him there. And then that makes more sense while we're seeing the Stonehorn not gone for. Instead, he's sticking with his original plan, Owen. His original plan was to grab the flanks and grab the objectives, and he's decided clearly not to move around from that. So if he can grab that top left objective at the same time, he can burn them, and then on the priority roll, he could potentially move up into that Thunder Tusk and Beast Rider at the top, grab that objective at the same time, and then Stephen will have no home objectives.
I think he's splitting his shots as well, which is, obviously something that's always encouraged. This block of skinks has got to do a lot, and his decision making here, I think, is going to be really key. I've just had an update from Colonel Cabbage on one of the other tables, Rob. There's lots of Archeons running around, and Stephen follows Archeon and Inferno Storms.
Your pick for the win.
Yeah, round 1. Both of them put each other's Archeons in the sword.
A classic sword-on-sword situation.
Exactly, crossing the streams or whatever. I don't know. Yes, and that's on turn 1. So they're going to have to play the rest of the game without 800 points each. So yeah, love to see that. We will definitely have an Archeon on the stream this weekend. I think they're bloody everywhere. So yeah,
they are absolutely everywhere. So look at that. A Thundertusk at the top is dead, just from the skink shooting alone. So that was a monster. Right there. That is a monster. So that's a Thundertusk Beast Rider, 270 points, alive to dead in a turn. Of those wounds, and don't forget he's got an extra wound. Normally they're 12 wounds. In Boulderhead it's 13. Croak did 7 of those 13 wounds in the magic phase, and then it was those last 5 wounds taken out by these skinks. So battle line units that cost 60 points for 10 is what took out that unit there. They still haven't charged into this Huskarl Thundertusk at the top of the board. Oh, but they did shoot at him, and they did no wounds. So all the luck currently going there. So they're going to have to do 5 wounds to Huskarl Thundertusk, or just get 10 bodies on that objective. So we hear it from the table boss. Go on, Owen, after you.
Yes, sorry, Robert. I think I was going to make the same point. Just the fact that, splitting the shots though actually wasn't a terrible idea, because he did want to have a charge target. So he wanting to charge that Thundertusk. So he's rolled a 3, which isn't going to be enough to get on the objective. So he's re-rolling it for a CP.
So rolled it into an 8. So he's rolled.
I think that'll do it, right? Because even though we're talking about the shooting output from these little skinks, they also get all the buffs in the combat phase, Rob. You know,
they do.
Why not?
Well, why not? So, and they're armed with Moonstone clubs. So it's 1 attack each, but if they've got 15 or more, which they do, that +1 attack it applies to shooting and combat. So to both. So now they're going to have 2 attacks each. So, yeah, they do. So they're going to have 2 attacks each. They hit on 4s. They wound on 4s as well. No rend and 1 damage, but of course any 6s to wound are going to cause a mortal wound. And with reroll 1s to hit, they're really good. Earlier on when we saw them with +1 to hit, you could have had from that block of skinks 80 attacks in close combat, 3s rerolling 1s, 4s cause a mortal wound. Amazing unit with the buff stacked on top of them. It's so solid. However, he looks like what he's doing instead of. So you got 2 options here. Get the charge. Let's zoom in a little bit. Get the charge. Move as many bodies onto the objective as possible. That's the plan, and then outscore. What it looks like he's decided to do with his 8-inch charge is swamp as many bodies around the Thundertusk so that he can hit him for as much damage as possible, kill him, and then he only has to have 1 model on the objective, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And, I mean, how many wounds has that Thundertusk got left?
5 left.
Yeah, I think he's going down, isn't he? Because also, I can't see. And then it becomes that kind of game where, you know, again, in tight games, it's whether you hold or whether you burn is the kind of risky play, isn't it?
It is.
You know, because you can hold that objective and keep scoring it, and then burn at the end. Or if you feel that your position is a little bit more precarious, you're looking to burn, you know, as soon as you grab it and just keep those points rolling. But yeah, I expect that Thundertusk to go down.
Me too. I think the Thundertusk is going to be super out there. He's going to go down, but also something to be. But there is something to talk about. Thundertusks are naturally -1 to hit in close combat. They have numbing chill. Always something to be aware of, and that is going to change those numbers up, because those melee attacks hitting on 4s now hitting on 5s, which is going to be really important. The reroll 1's still coming into effect, but that -1 to hit is going to be key. And the Huskarl itself has got a mount trait, which does mean that the skinks are going to be going last. And then he's using the command point ability, or the command ability that you get, so you spent the CP, to fight on the top bracket. So Boulderhead have got a command ability that you can use so that you can fight from the top bracket. So we're going to see this Huskarl on Thundertusk go full womp, which isn't super impressive, but let's talk about it. It's 3 attacks from his punches and kicks, which are 3s, 4s, no rend and 1 damage, and then the Colossal Tusk, this is what he wants to get through. hitting on 3s, and he's giving himself all-out attack, so he's re-rolling 1s. Wounding on 2s if he's fighting on the top bracket, which he is now. So 3s re-rolling 1s, 2s, rend 1, and then it's doing D3 damage. So what he's really looking to do with this combo of strike last, and then fight at the top bracket, and then re-roll 1s to hit, he's looking to drop down that unit of skinks again below that 15 wound threshold and make them just not as scary. Yeah,
and like that could really change the maths on this, because when you factor in he might be able to again get that unit down below 30, perhaps. Sorry, below 15. Oh, here we go. Here are the skinks are getting picked off. So I think he might have punched and kicked 2 in the face there, which is something I'm down for that.
Most people don't know this, but I've actually had commissioned a skink body pillow for Owen to just punch whenever he is feeling the rage build inside him every time he sees a Seraphon list entered into a tournament. So it's winging its way to you via... It's on the Evergreen, though, Owen, so it might take a while.
Oof,
it's with the second run of Curse City.
Also, I don't hate skinks that much. It's a bit like you lean into it after a while, don't you, Rob? You got to lean into it and kind of
100% have, which is why we're mainly a competitive based ogre channel now, as opposed to anything else. Unfortunately, with all of the CP spent and all of our hopes and dreams, the Huskard and Thundertusk was only able to kill 5 skinks with the bolt spears. So unfortunately, that hasn't taken them down to below 15. I don't think. I'm double checking now. They had 22. So close. He just needed to do another 3 damage, and it would have been perfect. Unfortunately, it hasn't. So can the skinks that are left, so that's the 17 skinks, do the final 5 wounds, the Huskard on Thundertusk, take him off the objective, and then that's going to give the top left and top right objective to the Seraphon, or with priority roll coming up next. Oh, it's very tense, Owen. It turned into a good match.
Yeah, definitely. I think the Seraphon player, you do have so many outs. I think that's one of the things that non-Seraphon players do find a bit frustrating. But it does make for an excellent game, because if you get your army hammered as hard as the Seraphon, as Quirinox did over that double, normally that's GG, right? If you get it punked that hard, but with the teleporting, the summoning, the mission, and obviously the output that you can get from the skinks and from Croak, then we've still very much got a game on our hands here.
Yeah, we really have. Priority is going to be super key here, but we'll see. Oh, now the combat is done. The combat is done, and the Huskard on Thundertusk has got 2 wounds left. There's no battle shocks to be taken, so we've flown into priority roll. Twitch chat, let us know who you think is going to win it. I'm just going to take a moment to thank Nick J. Fowler for resubscribing, everyone for watching us live, and anyone who is subscribed on Patreon or on Twitch. Thank you so much for supporting the channel and the show. So, priority roll come up. Owen, it's gone to the Ogres. They've got a chance. They have got a chance.
Wow. More than a chance, mate. I mean, like that Stonehorn.
A beeline to business is what he's got. He's like, ring, 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 ring. And they're like, hello. He's like, who's this? It's like Destiny. Are you willing to accept the call? He's like, I'm all in.
I was born for this call. That's right. Let's learn tray playing. It's clobbering time. Yeah. So one thing I like about the Ogres, Rob, really quick hero phase.
So quick.
Yeah. Whilst there might be a disparity in power level between a lot of books, there's also a disparity in hero phases, and I'm a big fan of the 1 minute hero phase. It's like 1 spell, 1 prayer. Do I get it? No. Sweet. Let's get to the most important phase in the game.
Movement. But where are they going to go? So they've got to deal with all these skinks at the back of the board. That's got to be quite key. Oh. Okay. There we go. It doesn't even matter. It's done. The players themselves have just called the game. Seraphon have said, no way am I winning this. I don't want to watch Croak get smashed by a Stonehorn, which is heartbreaking for us, if we're honest. But that's it. It's all over. The player, Seraphon has conceded. They've said that's not a no. Owen, lots to break down here. If you've only just joined us from the start, I'm going to let you know kind of how the game went. I want to thank Cup for resubscribing. Played my first game yesterday in real life. Watched 38 of my gits blow up to a Sorcerer, Lord, and Manticore turn 1. Fucking loved it. I'm all in now, boys. Says Cup.
Yes! That's the attitude that we want, right? All my shit died, and I don't care. It's brilliant. Or I might have got that the wrong way around, but anyway. Wow. So, I mean, what do you think, Rob? I mean, I know we're going to cut away in a second, but do you think? Yeah.
Well, let's look at if we look at the board for a moment. So, if you guys are looking at the board now, just joined us. What happened was Croak, where the Balewind is on the left now. So he was given the first turn by Stephen and also by the Yetis. So, of course, the Yetis versus whatever it's Skinks versus the Blizzards or whatever it was. But he took his 2 blocks of 40 Skinks. He had a block of 40 on the right and he had 2 blocks of 40 on the left. He buffed up 2 of them and he kind of pincered. So top right, top left. We took out a Thunder Tusk at the top and we didn't take a Thunder Tusk on the right. And then no charges. I don't know why I didn't try and claim that objective in the top right-hand corner at all. Seems odd to have not gone for that. And I think that was just the play. That was the play that just either, like, what was interesting is Stephen gave away the turn, I think, clearly hoping for the priority. Like, hoping for the double turn, 1 into 2, thinking that's the only way I'm going to be able to punch into this army, which he obviously got. I don't think Seraphon needed to do that. I don't think that's where they were at. I think that they could have pushed on one flank on the left-hand side. They could have screened like they did already. They could have put a lot of wounds into some objectives and into some Thunder Tusks, and they could have just stayed back a little bit. And I think that they would have been able to slow roll their way through. I definitely don't think they needed to throw the unit that was on the far right in. In fact, actually, it was cut away from the game now. To be honest, they could have taken that unit on the far right, Owen. I know the characters were there. And then just teleported them over onto the far left. Pushed up with all 120. And just been like, this is my side of the board. Here I go. Stonehorn moves into the centre. And, there was loads. There was loads you could talk about with that game. Have you got any thoughts on how you'd play it?
Yeah. I mean, I've never rolled a dice with looking at a Seraphon War Scroll, so I'm going to have to just talk in overall sort of ideas. But I do think it's a funny one, Rob, because basically what you want Stephen to do is Stephen at some point in the game to have the decision about whether he wants to push and leave his back objectives and then the Seraphon can just jump in behind him, or he just wants to sit there and try and win a very like a small victory on one objective perhaps. But what he did was he basically pretty much offered up his whole army to Stephen, a couple of the threats basically, and then he probably thought to himself, I'll parting shot. He'll charge in and I'll parting shot. But the output from the shooting phase, the blizzards, we'll have to get the name correct at some point.
Frost Wreathed Blizzard.
Yes, that blizzard with the blood vultures that were picking off the heroes, and then obviously the charge damage. Like I don't think he did a huge amount actually fighting in the combat phase, but everything else was, Croak can't unbind a bloody snowball coming at your face, can it? And Croak can't unbind a vulture pecking at your eyes. And so I think that perhaps that might have been a rude awakening there for Quirinix in terms of maybe a little bit of overconfidence, maybe a little bit of not necessarily respecting the amount of output that he could get. And for Stephen, like I bet after that turn 1, he was probably rubbing his hands together because he.
My God, that priority roll turn 2. I don't think he would have said, "I'm taking it faster," especially so for rolling a 1. Like, it'd have been absolutely joyous. Because truthfully, like, so I talk about this. If you guys have never read the workbook, like, this is kind of my modality for how I talk about games. Someone is the beatdown. which means someone's in a stronger position, either because of the battle plan or because of the matchup. And truthfully, it was the Seraphon in that situation. They were in the stronger position. It's harder for Stephen. He has to put one model on each objective of his big snow boys. That's what he has to do just to hold the objective, just to be worth 10 wounds. He's got one really mobile threat that's going to go and punch into the enemy, and that's obviously the Stonehorn. So he's got that. That's all he's got, whereas we've got teleporting and run and charging blocks of 40 skinks that can outscore the singles. They can also teleport as well. They can outscore the 10 models, on the snowball. So he put himself in a position where he was like, okay, I'm not the beatdown. I'm going to give the turn away, let my opponent make some mistakes, and then I hope I can capitalize on what those mistakes might be. Put himself in a really strong position there. And then, ultimately, the Snowballs did an incredible job. Like we said, the Thundertusk list is a list. It's 12 dice doing basically 6 mortal wounds a turn into big hordes. That's not nothing when you've got 6 of them. Like, that's really good. And the Seraphon player just didn't need to be there. That's the kind of key takeaway, I think, from this matchup. But that priority roll, turning the course of the game, is so important. Because, again, Stephen put himself in the position to capitalize on the priority roll. That's the key. It's why the priority roll is so good. It's why the game is so good. It's just brilliant. It was a brilliant game. Loved it. Loved it. Thanks to both players for a cracking game. I hope they enjoyed it. Owen, we enjoyed it, right?
Yeah. Love watching Warhammer and talking about it and seeing the dynamics and, a lot like we often do get bogged down with, this is the amazing army and this is amazing, this is shit, blah, blah, blah. But, when it's good to see, get the armies on the table and see when dice get in the way of an excellent plan. My only thought on it overall would be just with Quironex, the Seraphon player. Seraphon, you don't get low drop, so he's used to being given away the first turn. And I think whilst you've got a lot of strength there, the way that Seraphon use that first turn when it's given away to them is probably quite key in terms of how they then win the game. That would be one of my sort of finishing thoughts. Seraphon players really need to think about how they execute that turn one plan so they don't overextend. And I think that was probably a little bit of an overextension. I don't think I'm off saying
no,
that.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think you are either. I think something for us all to take away is where you deploy threats. It's a good conversation, actually, if you go back and look at the last game of last week, really, in the threats that were really available for the Daughters of Cain list that we saw play Game 3 last week. If you have that conversation, you kind of look at it and deep analyze how it works. Really, I know the Harpies are kind of a bit of a threat, that you can kind of put in, and even the Shadow Stankers are a bit. But really, it's those 15 Bow Snakes and Morathi. You combo them together, those are the 2 threats in the army. Both players had their threats spread out a bit more in this game, and really it was those 3 blocks of 40 skinks versus the Stonehorn and all of the shooting from the Thundertusks. And once you understand where the threats are for both players, you can be like, cool, how do I bring my threats to neutralize their threats? And I just think in this situation, Stephen did a better job. And that's the kind of key takeaway. As you guys go away and think about your matches, you think, right, what are my big hitters, or what does the things for me, and how do I make them play into my opponent in a way that I want them to go? Because this wasn't the way to do it. Right, anyway, we'll be back later, Owen, at 4 o'clock.
4:30, sir.
4:30 for the next match. I hope you guys enjoyed that match. I did. It was brilliant. So we're going to be back for that. Thank you to Owen, who's running the event and also commentating today. And also thank you to our incredible table boss, intern Matt. What a ledge. Hope all the players enjoyed themselves. Hope you guys enjoyed yourselves. See you at 4:30. See you guys soon. Bye.